Part 1, Chapter 11 of 800 Leagues on the Amazon. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. 800 Leagues on the Amazon by Jules Verne. Part 1, Chapter 11 From Pevas to the Frontier. During the few days which followed, nothing occurred worthy of note. The nights were so fine that the long raft went on its way with the stream without even a halt. The two picturesque banks of the river seemed to change like the panoramas of the theatres which unroll from one wing to another. But a kind of optical illusion it appeared as though the raft was motionless between two moving pathways. Benito had no shooting on the banks, for no halt was made, but game was very advantageously replaced by the results of the fishing. A great variety of excellent fish were taken, pacos, surubis, gamitanas, of exquisite flavour, and several of those large rays called duridaris, with rose-coloured stomachs and black backs, armed with highly poisonous darts. There were also collected by thousands those candirus, a kind of small silurus, of which many are microscopic, and which so frequently make a pincushion of the calves of the bather when he imprudently ventures into their haunts. The rich waters of the Amazon were also frequented by many other aquatic animals, which escorted the jangada through its waves for whole hours together. There were the gigantic priarucus, 10 and 12 feet long, cuirassed with large scales with scarlet borders, whose flesh was not much appreciated by the natives. Neither did they care to capture many of the graceful dolphins which played about in hundreds, striking with their tails the planks of the raft, gambolling at the bow and stern, and making the water alive with coloured reflections and spurts of spray, which the refracted light converted into so many rainbows. On the 16th of June the jangada, after fortunately clearing several shallows in approaching the banks, arrived near the large island of San Pablo, and the following evening she stopped at the village of Moromoros, which is situated on the left side of the Amazon. 24 hours afterward, passing the mouth of the Atacoari or Cocha, or rather the Furo or canal, which communicates with the lake of Cabello Cocha on the right bank, she put in at the rising ground of the mission of Cocha. This was the country of the Marahua Indians, whose long floating hair and mouths opening in the middle of a kind of fan made of the spines of palm trees, 6 inches long, give them a cat-like look, their endeavour being, according to Paul Marcoy, to resemble the tiger, whose boldness, strength, and cunning they admire above everything. Several women came with these Marahuas smoking cigars, but holding the lighted ends in their teeth. All of them, like the king of the Amazonian forests, go about almost naked. The mission of Cocha was then in charge of a Franciscan monk, who was anxious to visit Padre Passanha. Joam Garral received him with a warm welcome and offered him a seat at the dinner table. On that day was given a dinner which did honor to the Indian cook. The traditional soup of fragrant herbs, cake, so often made to replace bread in Brazil, composed of the flour of the manioc, thoroughly impregnated with the gravy of meat and tomato jelly, poultry with rice, swimming in a sharp sauce made of vinegar and malaqueta, a dish of spiced herbs. A cold cake sprinkled with cinnamon formed enough to tempt a poor monk reduced to the ordinary meagre fare of his parish. They tried all they could to detain him, and Yaquita and her daughter did their utmost in persuasion, but the Franciscan had to visit on that evening an Indian who was lying ill at Cocha, and he heartily thanked the hospitable family and departed, not without taking a few presents, which would be well received by the neophytes in the mission. For 2 days Araujo was very busy. The bed of the river gradually enlarged, but the islands became very numerous, and the current, embarrassed by these obstacles, increased in strength. Great care was necessary in passing between the islands of Cabello, Cocha, Tarapote, and Cacao. Many stoppages had to be made, and occasionally they were obliged to pole off the jangada, which now and then threatened to run aground. Every one assisted in the work, and it was under these difficult circumstances that, on the evening of the 20th of June, they found themselves at Nuestra Senora de Loreto. Loreto is the last Peruvian town situated on the left bank of the river before arriving at the Brazilian frontier. It is only a little village composed of about 20 houses, grouped on a slightly undulating bank, formed of ochreous earth and clay. It was in 1770 that this mission was founded by the Jesuit missionaries. The Ticuma Indians who inhabit the territories on the north of the river are natives with ruddy skins, bushy hair, and striped designs on their faces, making them look like the lacquer on a Chinese table. Both men and women are simply clothed, with cotton bands bound round their thighs and stomachs. They are now not more than 200 in number, and on the banks of the Atacoari are found the last traces of a nation which was formerly so powerful under its famous chiefs. At Loreto there also live a few Peruvian soldiers and 2 or 3 Portuguese merchants, trading in cotton stuffs, salt fish, and sarsaparilla. Benito went ashore to buy, if possible, a few bales of this smilax, which is always so much in demand in the markets of the Amazon. Joam Garral, occupied all the time in the work which gave him a moment's rest, did not stir. Yaquita, her daughter, and Manuel also remained on board. The mosquitoes of Loreto have a deserved reputation for driving away such visitors as do not care to leave much of their blood with the redoubtable diphthera. Manuel had a few appropriate words to say about these insects, and they were not of a nature to encourage an inclination to brave their stings. They say that all the new species which infest the banks of the Amazon collect at the village of Loreto. I believe it, but do not wish to confirm it. There, Minha, you can take your choice between the gray mosquito, the hairy mosquito, the white-clawed mosquito, the dwarf mosquito, the trumpeter, the little fifer, the artiquis, the harlequin, the big black, and the red of the woods, or rather they may take their choice of you for a little repast, and you will come back hardly recognizable. I fancy these bloodthirsty diphthera guard the Brazilian frontier considerably better than the poverty-stricken soldiers we see on the bank. But if everything is of use in nature, asked Minha, what is the use of mosquitoes? They minister to the happiness of entomologists, replied Manuel, and I should be much embarrassed to find a better explanation. What Manuel had said of the Loreto mosquitoes was only too true. When Benito had finished his business and returned on board, his face and hands were tattooed with thousands of red points, without counting some chigos, which, in spite of the leather of his boots, had introduced themselves beneath his toes. Let us set off this very instant, said Benito, or these wretched insects will invade us, and the jangada will become uninhabitable. And we shall take them into Para, said Manuel, where there are already quite enough for its own needs. And so, in order not to pass even the night near the banks, the jangada pushed off into the stream. On leaving Loreto, the Amazon turned slightly toward the southwest, between the islands of Arava, Cuyari, and Urucutea. The jangada then glided along the black waters of the Cajaru, as they mingled with the white stream of the Amazon. After having passed this tributary on the left, it peacefully arrived during the evening of the 23rd of June alongside the large island of Jahuma. The setting of the sun on a clear horizon, free from all haze, announced one of those beautiful tropical nights which are unknown in the temperate zones. A light breeze freshened the air, the moon arose in the constellated depths of the sky, and for several hours took the place of the twilight which is absent from these latitudes. But even during this period the stars shone with unequalled purity. The immense plain seemed to stretch into the infinite like a sea, and at the extremity of the axis, which measures more than 200,000 millions of leagues, there appeared on the north the single diamond of the Pole Star, on the south the 4 brilliants of the Southern Cross. The trees on the left bank and on the island of Jahuma stood up in sharp black outline. There were recognizable in the undecided silhouettes the trunks or rather columns of Copajo